I never thought I'd do this. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who cheats. But here I am, sitting in my car, hands shaking, staring at the hotel room door like it's some kind of portal to another life. My name's Jessica. I'm 32, married for 8 years to my college sweetheart, Mark. We have a nice house, decent jobs, and a golden retriever named Charlie. To anyone on the outside, my life looks perfect. But inside? It's been empty for a long time. I can't pinpoint exactly when things started to fade between Mark and me. Maybe it was after the honeymoon phase wore off, or maybe it was when work got too busy and life became a routine of paying bills and falling asleep in front of the TV. The thing is, Mark's a good guy. He's kind, loyal, safe. But love? That spark? It's been gone for years. Then came Ryan. Ryan is, well, he's everything Mark isn't. We met at the gym, of all places. I remember the first time he smiled at me, one of those confident, effortless smiles that makes you feel like the only person in the room. We started chatting after workouts, first about fitness, then about life. He asked questions Mark never did anymore. He actually listened. And God, the way he looked at me, like I was someone exciting again. I told myself it was harmless. Just some innocent flirting to make me feel alive. But deep down, I knew better. The first time Ryan touched my hand, I felt that electric jolt I hadn't felt in years. And when he asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. Sometime turned into every Tuesday after work. Then Thursday. Then late-night texts that I hid from Mark. Before I knew it, I was lying about working late and sneaking off to meet Ryan in his car, in quiet bars, in places I never thought I'd be. I told myself I wouldn't let it go too far. That I had control. But control slipped away the first time Ryan kissed me in the parking lot behind the gym. And then it slipped further when I found myself standing outside that hotel room door. I hesitated. I thought about Mark, about the life we built, about Charlie waiting for me at home. But then I thought about myself. About how I had spent years feeling invisible, like I was just existing. And Ryan? He made me feel like someone new. Someone who could still feel wanted. Desired. So I opened the door. I wish I could say I regret it. That it was a moment of weakness, a mistake. But the truth? I don't regret it. Not yet, anyway. Maybe I will tomorrow, or next week, or next year. But right now? Right now, I feel alive. I know I'm playing with fire. I know I'm risking everything for something that might not even last. But in this moment, with Ryan's hands on me and my heart pounding like it hasn't in years, I don't care. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who cheats. But here I am. And I don't know if I'll ever stop. The morning after, I woke up in that hotel bed, tangled in sheets that weren't mine, staring at the ceiling while Ryan slept beside me. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand, 3 missed calls from Mark. Guilt hit me like a freight train, heavy and suffocating, but at the same time, I felt something else. Something dangerous. Freedom. I slipped out of bed quietly, grabbed my clothes, and left without waking Ryan. The drive home felt surreal, like I was in some kind of dream I couldn't wake up from. I kept rehearsing what I'd say if Mark asked where I was. Stuck in traffic? Late meeting? Flat tire? But when I walked in the door, he was still asleep, snoring lightly on the couch, oblivious to everything. I stood there for a long time, just watching him. This man who had been my entire world once. He looked peaceful, innocent. And I hated myself for what I'd done. But at the same time, I resented him. Because it shouldn't have been so easy to lie. It shouldn't have been so easy to slip away without him noticing. For the next few days, I tried to pretend like nothing happened. I cooked dinner, laughed at Mark's bad jokes, even let him hold me at night like he used to. But something inside me had shifted. I couldn't unfeel what Ryan made me feel. And Ryan? He didn't make it easy to forget. The texts kept coming. Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Last night was, wow. Each message made my stomach flip in that delicious, terrifying way. I wanted more. And I hated myself for it. The second time was easier. No hesitation, no guilt, just excuses and a growing addiction to the way Ryan looked at me like I was the most exciting thing in his world. The third time? It felt normal. By the fourth, I stopped making excuses to myself. I started noticing things about Mark that I never paid attention to before. The way he never really looked at me anymore, not like Ryan did. The way our conversations were just autopilot. The way he'd touch me absent-mindedly, like I was a piece of furniture he'd grown used to. And I wondered, had he always been like this? Or had I just been too busy loving him to notice? But then, something happened that I didn't see coming. One night, after another late meeting, I came home to find Mark sitting at the kitchen table, his laptop open, his face pale. He looked up at me, and I knew. "Jess," he said, his voice tight. "Where were you tonight?" I swallowed hard. "I told you. Don't." He shook his head and turned the laptop around. My stomach dropped. It was an email. From Ryan. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stood there like a deer in headlights. "I thought something felt off," Mark said, his voice eerily calm. "So, I checked our phone records. And then, this popped up." He pointed to the screen. Ryan, being the idiot that he was, had sent me a flirty email to our shared inbox instead of my personal one. The room spun. My mind scrambled for an excuse, a way out. But it was over. He knew. "Mark, I stammered, but there was nothing I could say that would make this better." He didn't yell. Didn't throw things. He just sat there, staring at me with this heartbreak in his eyes that cut deeper than if he'd screamed. "How long?" he finally asked. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What was the right answer? A week? A month? The truth wouldn't change what I'd done. His face crumpled, and for the first time in years, I saw him cry. "I thought we were okay," he whispered. "I thought you were happy." And that was the worst part. He still thought I could have been happy with him. That maybe if he'd done something different, I wouldn't have strayed. But the truth? I didn't even know why I did it anymore. That night, I packed a bag and left. I told him I needed space, time to think. But deep down, I knew I was just running. Running from the mess I made, from the guilt, from everything. I ended up at Ryan's place, and for a while, it felt good. It felt right. But something was missing. No matter how many times he touched me, how many times he whispered my name, it didn't fill the void I was trying to escape. And that's when it hit me. Maybe it wasn't about Mark. Maybe it wasn't even about Ryan. Maybe it was about me. I had lost myself somewhere along the way, trying to be the perfect wife, trying to live up to expectations, trying to find happiness in places it didn't belong. And now? Now I was just a woman sitting in a stranger's apartment, wondering where the hell I went wrong. I don't know how this ends. Maybe I'll go back to Mark and beg for forgiveness. Maybe I'll stay with Ryan and try to make it work. Or maybe I'll finally figure out what I actually want, instead of chasing whatever makes me feel alive for 5 minutes at a time. All I know is, I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who cheats. But here I am. And I have no idea what comes next. A week passed. Then another. I stayed at Ryan's place, but it didn't feel like home. It felt like an escape, temporary, fleeting. His apartment smelled different, his bed sheets didn't feel like mine, and every time I heard his voice in the morning, I expected Mark's instead. Ryan tried to make it work. He'd cook breakfast, leave little notes on the mirror, and tell me how much better off I was without boring old Mark. But deep down, I knew. He wasn't my future, he was my mistake. One night, I caught myself staring at my phone, thumb hovering over Mark's name. I wanted to call. I wanted to say something. But what could I possibly say that would fix this? Instead, I typed out a simple message, "I'm sorry." I didn't expect him to reply. Not after the way I left. But 5 minutes later, the dots appeared. "What are you sorry for, Jess? That you cheated? Or that you got caught?" I felt my heart crack a little. I didn't have an answer. "Both," I finally typed back. No response. Lying in Ryan's bed that night, I realized something that scared me. I missed Mark, not in the way you miss someone because they're familiar, but because I loved him. Maybe not in that fiery, passionate way anymore, but in the way that meant something deeper. A life. A history. And I had thrown it away like it was nothing. But Mark? He wasn't perfect, and neither was I. Somewhere along the way, we both stopped trying. And maybe I was the one who stepped out first, but the cracks were there long before Ryan ever came along. The next morning, I woke up early, packed my things, and left Ryan's apartment without a word. I didn't belong there. I didn't belong anywhere, really. But I knew I couldn't keep running. When I got back to our house, my house, Mark was sitting on the front porch, drinking his coffee like he always did. He didn't look surprised to see me. I sat down beside him, feeling the weight of everything between us. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. "I messed up," I finally said. He sipped his coffee. "Yeah. You did." I swallowed hard. "I don't expect you to forgive me." He nodded, staring into his cup. "I know." I waited. Waited for him to yell, to cry, to tell me to leave again. But instead, he just sat there, quiet and thoughtful, like he was trying to figure out if I was worth saving. I didn't even know if I was. After what felt like forever, he spoke. "Do you love him?" His voice was raw, and I could hear the fear under the surface. I shook my head. "No. I don't even think I loved what we had. I just needed to feel something again." He let out a long breath, running a hand through his hair. "You could have talked to me, Jess." I blinked back tears. "I know. But I didn't. And I can't take it back." We sat in silence again, the weight of 8 years pressing down on us. And then, finally, he said, "I don't know if I can forgive you." I nodded. "I don't know if I can forgive myself." We sat there for a long time, neither of us moving, neither of us sure where to go from here. And that's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just disappear. It lingers. It changes everything. But sometimes, just sometimes, it can also force you to finally confront the truth. Mark stood up, setting his coffee down on the railing. "I need time." I watched him walk inside, the door clicking shut behind him. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something real. Hope. Maybe. Regret? Definitely. I wasn't sure if we'd make it. I wasn't sure if love could survive something like this. But I knew one thing for certain, whatever happened next, I had to face it. No more running. No more hiding behind the excitement of strangers. Just me. And the consequences of everything I'd done. Days turned into weeks, and Mark and I lived in a strange limbo. We spoke in small fragments, polite but distant. He still made coffee every morning, still walked Charlie in the evenings, but the easy rhythm we once had was gone. And I knew, I could feel it, he was deciding whether I was worth the effort of rebuilding, or if it was easier to let me go. I tried to be patient. I stayed in the guest room, giving him space, but every night, I lay awake wondering if I had already lost him for good. One evening, I found him in the garage, tinkering with his old bike, the one he used to ride before life got too busy for things like that. I stood in the doorway, watching him, and finally, I said, "Do you want me to leave?" He didn't look up. His hands kept working, methodical, controlled. "I don't know." The weight of those words settled deep in my chest. "I know I hurt you," I said, voice trembling. "And I know. I should have talked to you before any of this happened. But I don't want to walk away from us, Mark. Not if there's even a chance we can fix this." He set down his tools, exhaling slowly. "Fixing this, it's not just about saying sorry, Jess." He finally met my eyes, and the exhaustion in his face cut me to my core. "Do you even know why you did it? Why him?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. And for the first time, I answered honestly. Because I felt invisible. And he made me feel like someone new. Mark nodded, like he'd expected that answer, and it hurt more than I thought it would. "I didn't think you needed me to make you feel that way," he said quietly. I wiped at my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Neither did I. But I do." Silence stretched between us, heavy with things unsaid. And then, he spoke again. "I loved you, Jess. I still do. But I don't know if I can trust you." His words hit harder than I expected, and I nodded. "I don't know if I can trust myself either." That was the thing about cheating. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about the erosion of everything we built. Trust, intimacy, security. I had shattered them all in a moment of selfishness. For weeks, we tiptoed around each other, until one night, he knocked on my bedroom door. I opened it, and for the first time in a long time, he looked at me like he used to, not with anger or sadness, but with something else. "I don't know how this ends," he said, his voice steady. "But I think I want to try." I felt tears sting my eyes. Me too. It wasn't a grand reconciliation. There were no sweeping declarations of love, no dramatic gestures. Just two people standing in the wreckage of something that used to be whole, trying to figure out if it was worth salvaging. And I knew it wouldn't be easy. Some days, he would look at me and see the betrayal instead of the woman he married. Some days, I would wonder if I had ruined us beyond repair. But for now, we were still here. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start over.